cheating wife said, "He's just my lapdog and have no mind of his own." What he did next shattered her world. "He's just my lapdog and has no mind of his own." Those were the venomous words Claire Matthews spat at her devoted husband in front of their dinner guests and 7-year-old son. She believed she was married to a weak, worthless man with no options or future. What she didn't know was that her pathetic stay-at-home husband had already begun orchestrating the most brilliant revenge in relationship history. What happened next will make you question everything you know about marriage, love, betrayal, sacrifice, and the price of destroying someone who truly loved you. Viewers, have you ever sacrificed everything for someone who ended up treating you like garbage? How do you handle that level of betrayal? Share your story in the comments. Sit back, grab your popcorn, and let's dive into this story of betrayal and karma. The rain hammered against the windows of their Chicago townhouse that October evening. But inside, the dinner party was in full swing. Adrian Matthews stood frozen in the archway between kitchen and dining room, his hands still gripping the serving tray that had crashed to the floor moments before. The silence was deafening. Around the mahogany table sat Claire's colleagues from the law firm, her boss, and Derek Morrison, the senior partner who'd been circling Claire like a predator for months. Their son Tommy, now 7 years old, sat wide-eyed as his mother's handprint burned red across his father's cheek. "What rubbish is this? Why is the food so salty?" Claire's voice cut through the air like broken glass. Her designer dress, her perfectly styled blonde hair, her cold blue eyes, she looked every inch the successful attorney she'd become. How hard is it to follow a simple recipe? Adrian's jaw clenched. 8 years. 8 years of this treatment, and it was getting worse every day. He bent down to collect the scattered plates, his pride bleeding out with each broken piece of china. "Claire, honey, maybe you were a bit harsh," whispered Janet, one of her colleagues. Claire threw her head back and laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that made Adrian's blood freeze. "Harsh? With that one?" She pointed at Adrian like he was something she'd found stuck to her shoe. "He's just my lapdog and has no mind of his own. Look at him. He won't even defend himself." The table erupted in uncomfortable chuckles. Derek Morrison's laugh was the loudest of all. But Adrian wasn't laughing. Something ancient and primal awakened in his chest. Not anger, but something far more dangerous. Clarity. He straightened slowly, his 6-foot frame casting a long shadow across the room. For just a moment, the brilliant engineer who'd once saved a failing company flickered behind his tired eyes. "You know what, Claire?" His voice was barely above a whisper, but somehow everyone heard it. "You're absolutely right." The laughter died. What happened next would haunt Claire Matthews for the rest of her life. But to understand the full scope of Adrian's revenge, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when these two souls first met. When love was pure, and when Adrian Matthews was destined for greatness. 9 years ago, Adrian Matthews wasn't just another engineering student at Northwestern University. He was the best. While his classmates struggled with basic calculations, Adrian was revolutionizing how things worked. Claire Davidson was different back then. Law school hadn't hardened her yet. Her laughter was genuine, her touch soft, her eyes bright with genuine love when she looked at Adrian across their favorite coffee shop table. "You're going to change the world," she whispered one evening, watching him sketch revolutionary circuit designs on napkins. They were inseparable, the power couple everyone envied. But Adrian was already changing worlds. The small tech company where he worked part-time was hemorrhaging money, drowning in debt, facing bankruptcy within months. Their outdated systems were killing them in a market demanding innovation. Adrian worked through 3 sleepless nights, fueled by coffee and determination. His solution was elegant, brilliant, and completely unexpected. He didn't just fix their problems. He created a system that would revolutionize their entire industry. The CEO, Robert Hartwell, nearly collapsed when Adrian presented the proposal. This could save us. This could make us millions." Within 6 months, the company went from bankruptcy to industry leader. Hartwell pulled Adrian aside, his voice shaking with excitement and gratitude. After graduation, I'm sponsoring your advanced studies abroad. MIT, Stanford, wherever you want. Then you come back and run this company. You'll be a legend in this field before you're 30. Adrian's future blazed before him like a shooting star. Fortune, fame, legacy. Everything was within reach. But love has a way of rewriting destiny. After their graduation, they get married. Their wedding was perfect. Claire looked radiant in her flowing white dress, Adrian handsome in his tailored tuxedo. Their families beamed with pride. The future seemed limitless. Then came the honeymoon in Maui. They should have been blissfully happy, but Claire grew distant, staring out at the ocean with troubled eyes. "What's wrong?" Adrian asked, genuine concern filling his voice. Claire's confession shattered the peaceful moment. "I'm terrified I'll never reach my full potential. Being a wife. What if I become just another housewife who gave up her dreams?" Adrian's childhood trauma flooded back instantly. His father's sudden death when Adrian was 12. Watching his mother become helpless, dependent, eventually discarded by his father's family. The poverty, the shame, the desperate struggle for survival. His mother's broken voice echoed in his memory. "Never let anyone you love face what I'm facing." Without hesitation, Adrian made the most costly decision of his life. "You have my complete support. Your dreams come first." When CEO Hartwell called about finalizing the overseas sponsorship, Adrian's response shocked everyone. "I resign." "Are you insane? You have the brightest future I've ever seen." "Family comes first. My wife's career matters more than mine." Hartwell fought desperately to change Adrian's mind, but Adrian stood firm. The door remained open, but Adrian walked away from guaranteed greatness. From that moment, Adrian Matthews, the man destined to become a tech industry legend, became a stay-at-home husband. He had no idea this sacrifice would eventually destroy everything he held sacred. After 6 months into the marriage, Claire did a PT. The pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines. Claire stared at it in their tiny bathroom, her law degree hanging freshly framed on the bedroom wall behind her. "We're having a baby," she whispered when Adrian found her sitting on their bed, the test clutched in her shaking hands. His face lit up like Christmas morning. But Claire's expression remained troubled, distant. Tommy arrived on a snowy February morning. Claire held their son for exactly 48 hours before her phone started buzzing with work calls. By week 8, she was back at the law firm, leaving Adrian alone with bottles, diapers, and sleepless nights. The transformation began with subtle cruelties. "Can you handle dinner tonight? Some of us had real jobs today." Claire snapped one evening, her briefcase hitting the kitchen counter like a weapon. Adrian was bouncing a crying Tommy while stirring pasta sauce. Months blended into years. Adrian perfected his domestic routine with the same precision he'd once applied to engineering equations. Homemade baby food, perfectly folded laundry, gourmet dinners that Claire barely acknowledged. But success was poisoning Claire's soul. Her first promotion brought the first public humiliation. At the firm's holiday party, Claire introduced Adrian to her colleagues with a laugh that cut like broken glass. "This is my house husband. He's quite domesticated." The partners' wives exchanged glances. Adrian forced a smile, pretending the words didn't slice through his pride like razors. Year 4 brought Derek Morrison into their lives like a cancer. Claire came home glowing after her first case with the senior partner. "Derek says I have real potential. He wants to mentor me personally." Derek's visits started innocently enough. Strategy sessions that ran late into the evening while Adrian served coffee and retreated to the kitchen. But Adrian noticed how Derek's eyes followed Claire, how his compliments lingered too long, how Claire preened under his attention. The dinner parties became Claire's weapon of choice. "Adrian, we need wine for the table," Claire commanded during one particularly brutal evening. Adrian had spent 6 hours preparing a 5-course meal for her colleagues, but he wasn't invited to sit with them. He served the wine, invisible as furniture. The conversation flowed around him, cases worth millions, partnerships, power plays. Adrian might as well have been the hired help. "Your husband's quite useful," Derek commented, his predatory smile making Adrian's skin crawl. Claire laughed. "He certainly keeps things organized around here." Tommy watched everything. At 5 years old, he began echoing his mother's tone. "Dad, why don't you wear suits like Derek?" The innocent question shattered Adrian's heart into smaller pieces. The breaking point built like pressure in a cracked dam. Claire stopped coming home for dinner. She attended client meetings that lasted until midnight, returning with Derek's cologne clinging to her clothes. She spoke to Adrian only to issue commands or criticisms. "The kitchen tiles need scrubbing," she'd say without looking up from her phone. "And Tommy's uniform isn't pressed properly." 8 years of systematic destruction had turned Adrian from respected engineer to invisible servant. 8 years of watching the woman he loved become someone he didn't recognize. But on that October evening, when Claire's cruel laughter echoed through their dining room, something ancient and dangerous awakened in Adrian's chest. Dawn crept through the bedroom curtains as Adrian stared at the ceiling, Claire's cruel words still ringing in his ears. "He's just my lapdog, and has no mind of his own." The laughter that followed had shattered something fundamental inside him. After dropping Tommy at Lincoln Elementary, Adrian didn't turn toward home. His hands gripped the steering wheel as he drove through Chicago's morning traffic toward downtown. The Hartwell Technologies building loomed ahead, like a monument to his abandoned dreams. Robert Hartwell's secretary nearly dropped her coffee when Adrian walked into the executive suite. The CEO's weathered face lit up with disbelief and joy. "Adrian Matthews, after 8 years, is the offer still available?" Hartwell's grin could have powered the building. "For you, always. I've been waiting for this day." Within hours, Adrian's international transfer paperwork was moving through corporate channels. His dormant security clearances were being reactivated. The same afternoon, he drove across town to Clinton Law Office. "Divorce papers. I want everything ready, but she can't know yet." Clinton studied his old college roommate's determined expression. 8 years, Adrian. You sure about this?" She made her choice the moment she called me her lapdog. For 30 days, Adrian played the perfect domestic servant while orchestrating his complete disappearance. Claire remained blind to his preparations, intoxicated by Derek's promises. She spent evenings texting her lover, planning their future partnership while her husband planned his escape. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning via courier. Claire's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. Her eyes scanned the legal documents, then she erupted into hysterical laughter that echoed through their kitchen. "You? Divorce me?" She waved the papers like confetti. "You have nowhere to go, no money, no backbone. You'll crawl back here begging within a week." The papers hit the granite countertop with finality. She refused to sign, confident in her absolute control. But Adrian's Singapore flight departed that Friday while Claire attended Derek's firm retreat. He left behind only custody arrangements and a forwarding address through his lawyer. Sunday evening, Claire's key turned in an empty house. Every trace of Adrian Matthews had vanished like smoke. His side of the closet gaped empty. His engineering books were gone. Even his coffee mug had disappeared from their kitchen cabinet. 6 months later, Claire signed the divorce papers and married Derek in a ceremony that dominated Chicago's society pages. She felt vindicated, victorious, free from the dead weight of her failed marriage. Derek's mask slipped within weeks. "I work 70-hour weeks," he snarled when Claire complained about managing all household duties. "You better earn your keep around here." The brutal irony suffocated her. She cooked Derek's meals, cleaned his messes, served his colleagues, everything she'd forced Adrian to endure, but without love to soften the humiliation. Her legal career crumbled under the impossible pressure. Exhaustion led to mistakes. Mistakes led to client complaints. 18 months after her marriage with Derek, Claire was terminated for botching a multi-million-dollar merger. Derek filed for divorce 2 months after Claire lost her job, keeping everything while leaving Claire with nothing. Claire's knees ached as she scrubbed the marble floors of the downtown office building. 3 years had passed since Derek discarded her like yesterday's newspaper. Her designer clothes had been replaced by a janitor's uniform. Her manicured nails were now cracked and stained from cleaning chemicals. The massive lobby television droned in the background as she worked. Business news, stock reports, the usual noise she'd learned to ignore. Then she heard his name. Tech industry legend Adrian Matthews announces engagement. Claire's head snapped up, dirty mop falling from her hands. There, on the 60-inch screen, stood her ex-husband. But this wasn't the broken man she'd humiliated at dinner parties. This Adrian wore a tailored Armani suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. His shoulders were broader, his jaw stronger, his eyes blazing with confidence she'd never seen before. Success radiated from every pore. Beside him stood the most beautiful woman Claire had ever seen. Victoria Trump's diamond engagement ring caught the camera lights like captured starlight. Her designer gown probably cost more than Claire's annual salary. Matthews revolutionized 3 major tech companies in Singapore before founding his own firm. The reporter continued. His patents in artificial intelligence and quantum computing have generated over $50 million in licensing fees this year alone. The mop bucket crashed to the floor, dirty water spreading across the pristine marble. $50 million. The words hammered in Claire's skull like funeral bells. The couple will marry next month in Hong Kong, followed by a reception at the Trump family estate. Industry insiders call it the wedding of the decade. Claire's hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone. She had to reach him, had to explain, had to somehow undo the catastrophic mistake that had cost her everything. But Adrian's old number was disconnected. His social media accounts showed a life so far removed from her reality, it felt like watching a movie. Private jets, exclusive galas, meetings with world leaders. He moved in circles she could never touch now. The security guard's voice cut through her panic. "Hey, you need to clean up this mess before the morning shift arrives." Claire dropped to her hands and knees, sopping up dirty water with paper towels while her former husband's face smiled down from the television screen. The irony burned like acid in her throat. She had destroyed the man who would have given her this life. She had called him worthless while he was capable of building an empire. She had chosen Derek's fake charm over Adrian's real devotion. The reporter's voice faded as Claire worked, but one phrase echoed endlessly in her mind. Matthews declined to comment on his previous marriage, stating only that he's focused on his future with Victoria. He wouldn't even acknowledge she existed. That night, Claire sat in her studio apartment, staring at Tommy's school picture. Her son barely remembered the father she'd driven away, the father who was now unreachable, untouchable, and completely done with them both. The lapdog had become a lion, and she was still crawling on her knees. Weeks after Claire first saw Adrian's face blazing across the television screen, she found herself standing outside the gleaming Hartwell Technologies headquarters in Chicago. The January wind bit through her thin coat as she clutched Tommy's hand. Her son's school uniform was wrinkled. Her own clothes still smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals from her morning shift. They had been waiting 3 hours, ignored by executives in $1,000 suits who streamed past without a glance. Corporate executives in $1,000 suits streamed past them like they were invisible. Claire's stomach twisted with each dismissive glance. She used to be one of them. At 6:47 p.m., the executive elevator doors opened. Adrian Matthews stepped into the marble lobby, and Claire's breath caught in her throat. 5 years had transformed him completely. His charcoal suit was perfectly tailored, his confidence absolute. Behind him walked Victoria Trump, radiant in cashmere and diamonds. "Dad." Tommy broke free from Claire's grip and sprinted across the lobby. Adrian's composure cracked for just a moment when his son crashed into his arms. "Tommy." His voice was softer than velvet. Nothing like the broken whisper Claire remembered. "Honey, I'm sorry." Claire's voice cracked as she approached. "I made a terrible mistake. Please, can we fix this?" Adrian's eyes met hers for the first time in 5 years. They were cold as winter steel, devoid of the love that had once burned there. The man who'd once worshipped her now looked at her like a stranger. Victoria squeezed Adrian's arm gently, her touch speaking volumes about their bond. No words needed. She understood everything. Adrian reached into his jacket and withdrew a cream-colored envelope. His movements were precise, calculated. "Child support will be transferred monthly. Tommy's education is covered through university." The envelope felt heavy in Claire's trembling hands. Inside was an invitation to his wedding, elegant, expensive, everything their own wedding had never been. "I'll always provide for my son." Adrian's voice carried no emotion, no trace of the man who'd once sacrificed everything for her dreams. Tommy, now 12 years, looked between his parents, confusion clouding his young face. "Dad, aren't you coming home?" Adrian knelt to his son's level, his voice gentle but final. "You'll always be my priority, buddy. But this is my home now." He stood, Victoria's hand finding his naturally. They moved toward the gleaming Maybach, waiting at the curb like they'd done this dance 1,000 times. Claire's legs gave out. She collapsed onto the cold marble floor, clutching the wedding invitation as sobs tore from her throat. Tommy knelt beside her, trying to comfort the mother who'd destroyed their family. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she watched Adrian's car disappear into Chicago traffic. The man she'd called her lapdog had become untouchable, unreachable, and utterly indifferent to her existence. Her own words echoed back like a curse. "He's just my lapdog, and has no mind of his own." But lapdog had found his spine. The man with no mind of his own had built an empire, and the woman who'd thrown away unconditional love was left broken on a marble floor, finally understanding the magnitude of what she'd destroyed. Some mistakes can never be undone, can never be taken back, and some people, once lost, are gone, some words forever. What do you think? Did Adrian go too far with his silent revenge? Or did Claire get exactly what she deserved? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting and true-to-life stories.